I genuinely do hope that this lands for people, because I know that in episode 2, we ended with the desire that I have to build a bigger table where everyone has a seat and feels seen for who they are, because they don't have to fit in with you and I, they belong. Could you imagine if everyone that chooses to take a seat with us also can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I am not a problem to be fixed? And what ripple effect could that have on a global impact if people started to embrace who they are without the masks? Because you and I don't wear masks anymore.
It would change the world.
Welcome to Permission to Be, where the messy middle finally gets a microphone.
Because let's be honest, life is not a highlight reel.
Here, we laugh at the absurd stuff, cry at the real stuff,
and talk about what it actually takes to find your way back to yourself. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Permission to Be. I'm Shannon McClintock.
I'm Jane Box.
Jane, what are we talking about today, girl?
I would like to end, because this is going to be airing right before New Year's Eve, and I would love to discuss with you, what have we learned? What have we gained? What are we shedding in 2025?
Oof.
How's that sound?
How long can we go?
30 minutes.
Okay. Might be a 45er today.
We can stretch it. If people play us on 1.2 or 1.5 speed, we could bring down those minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Make Jane sound like a chipmunk.
Or a chicken.
I will say, by the way, that Jane listens to almost everything at 2 speed.
I do.
So, and it really does make you feel like you're talking to the sloth in Zootopia whenever you stop listening to people in 2 speed.
Full connection. I have had multiple times when I've been at the dentist and I'm listening to an Audible on 2 speed, and they're like, what are you listening to?
2 speed is too much for me, because I feel like my ADHD brain does not catch enough things. So I think right now I'm listening to the Akatar series, and I have it on 1.2, where it's like just enough to not be slow. But
fair.
I can still sit in it and savor it.
Yeah.
There are like self-help books I listen to really quickly. To be frank, I'm just like, just give me all the information.
What does that say about
I don't
us?
need to sit in this. But Akatar, I'm like, tell me everything.
In great detail.
Should I slow it down farther? I listen to it on half speed. All the growls. That could actually be fun.
That could be fun.
First tangent of the day.
Do you want to go first, or would you like me to kick off?
So with 2025, I feel like whether or not people consciously knew it, so it was the year of the snake, which whether or not you follow Chinese astrology, I think that's what it is, Chinese astrology. Whether or not you follow that, it collectively, every single person that I've talked to did not leave 2025 unscathed. You didn't start 2025 and leave 2025 the same person.
I would venture to say that 2025 was my most monumental growth year of my life.
Hands down.
And how...
Not fun.
No, but it's very apropos that it's the snake, because the snake sheds its skin.
Exactly.
And I feel you and I have a huge connection of, I have shed layers of my body.
Pounds have come off. Metaphorical.
Literal. Physical. Spiritual.
But my therapist, I remember one time told me sorry. Shout out to Chrissy. Our therapist told me one time that essentially a lot of the trauma that you do, she used the analogy of it's like picking up rocks and carrying them in a backpack. And so you're super weighed down because it's all of these different expectations. Yeah. And it feels like I dumped 50 rocks
can we talk
my
about
backpack.
How big are these rocks, though? Are they pebbles? Are they?
I think some of them, like the crushing weight of expectation of society. That's a big one.
That was a beautiful sentence.
That's a big rock. That thing weighs a lot.
Wait, let's go back. 1.2 speed. Say it again.
1.2 is still faster.
Yeah, but it's not slow.
No, but so a big part was figuring out what rocks are actually mine to carry. I can't really draw it. Or I guess I can, maybe. I can find a piece of paper in my junk pile here. And there was this idea. So you have to watch the video to see it, but I will also describe it. And you have 3 circles, like 3 concentric circles. So it looks kind of like That's a terrible
So for those
image.
people that don't know what Shannon just said, it's a circle, a large circle, then it's a medium circle inside the large circle, and then a smaller circle inside the medium circle. So it's just narrowing it down.
Right.
Okay. We'd be really good in Pictionary, you and I.
So the idea is that you have this very, very large circle, and the very large circle is your area of concern. So that's the area of things that concern you, right?
So you got to go back into the mic. So the big circle is labeled
the
concern.
big circle is labeled concern. So this big circle houses all the things that concern you, right? So what your kid's school is doing, what your HOA is doing, like different things that concern you. Now, the circle that's inside of that, it is a smaller circle. That is your circle of influence.
Okay.
Your circle of influence is smaller. And those are the things that they concern you, and you also have influence over them, right?
I'm following.
And then you have this tiny, tiny, tiny little circle in the middle that is your control.
Okay. Wait, show me it again.
Yep. So you have
big circle concern, medium circle influence, and then a sesame seed circle in the very middle called control. Concern, influence, control.
This idea bent my mind a little bit because I am self-admittedly a bit of a control freak. And I would try to control things that are not actually in my control, because what I actually have control of only concerns my actions and decisions. I have influence over my kids. I don't have control because they are their own sovereign human beings, right?
Right.
I have influence over my husband. I don't actually have control of my husband. And understanding what I actually had control of versus what was in my circle of influence and what was not even in my influence, but just in my circle of concern.
Yeah.
Took it where there was so much stuff that I feel like I took upon myself, because when you have control of something, that means that you're responsible for the outcome, right? Like if I behave poorly, that was in my control. That means that if it came out badly, that's on me.
But if I did something that you influenced, but it didn't come out to the outcome you had desired, you couldn't control that.
I could be disappointed.
Right. But you can't control it.
But I can't take responsibility for it.
And I think that for me is what blew my mind.
Yes. And also just realizing how much you actually have control over.
Totally.
You have control over very little. Very little.
But it goes back to the sovereignty of our choices. You can choose to control certain things for yourself, but you can't control others. And I think that goes back to the word choice. For me, the word choice in 2025 was a big epiphany that everyone has a choice. It just might not be the choice that you desired, but it's out of your control.
Right. Yeah. Actually, so little parenting tangent nugget that I picked up.
I love nuggets.
There are 2 nuggets that I picked up from Instagram. Get your parenting advice from Instagram.
That is the next slogan on a t-shirt we're making. No one will buy it.
Don't like my parenting? Don't blame me. Blame Instagram.
Jane, why are your sales down? We picked the wrong slogan.
Turns out that wasn't a good call. No, but I have picked up 2 things recently from Instagram that are actually working. So this is another thing that I gleaned from 2025. I make very stubborn, strong-willed children.
Yes.
So, you know,
there are times when her children are screaming on the phone like, I'm going to let you go. These strong-willed kids, I can't hear this.
My kids don't have opinions. They have facts. I sweat a lot parenting. No, there's 2 things though. So my kids are, both of them have gone into a phase of either baby talk or whining. You know, they get overstimulated. It's a busy time of year and they start whining. And this one woman on Instagram, she said this very, very simple phrase, which was talk like I'm talking. And you say it very calm, talk like I'm talking. It works.
Really?
It actually, like remarkably well. My son will be like, okay, can you please get my water? And I'm like, what sorcery is that? Talk like I'm talking. 4 words. And it checks me to know that my tone, I'm not like, talk like I'm talking. I'm not like yelling at my kids like that. So it controls me, but it also controls them. Second one, this goes off of, this was not a complete tangent. This is the word choose, right?
Yeah.
So the other one is, instead of saying, if you do this, this will happen, right? So drawing a boundary, you use the word choose.
Yeah.
So it's, if you choose to not clean up your stuff, you are choosing to have it be put away
I
in
love
the
it.
garage.
That goes to what I've learned. I went to a neuroscience camp. It's a 3 series that you can choose if you want to keep going. And I chose to go to all 3. And we learned about language. And so what you just said is so on point, because we as a society choose to use words of I need, I want, oh, I have to, versus do you desire it? Do you choose it? Or do you love it? And so my family, to what you're now going, we're doing building blocks, you and I, is that we are choosing to teach our children to use those 3 types of words when they're speaking. And oh my gosh, it doesn't take very long before all of a sudden the vocabulary switches. And that is everything now out of our mouths is, do you desire it? Do you choose it? Or do you love it? And I love that you're also teaching your children this, because could you imagine how they will then show up in society in the years to come? And if they have children, the generational breaks that we've cut, and now what they're able to then go off into the future and teach others.
And it also teaches a level of sovereignty, because while I'm telling them what to do in a way,
Influence.
it really is, again, yes, it's influence. It's not
Right.
control. I have no control over whether my kids eat their vegetables on their plate. I do have influence. So I can influence it, but I can't actually control it. And so using those words of choose, because it is in fact their choice. It's my son's choice if he wants, like this morning, he was a grump bucket.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at him and I just said, it's your choice. Now you can choose to be grumpy. You can't take it out on our family. That is a rule that we have. Like if they want to be grumpy, that's okay. But you don't get to take it out on our stuff or other people.
No.
But at the same time, you can choose to get your mat out, go hit the bat on the bed, and we can talk about that more. You and I do that. You can hit the bat. You can scream into a pillow. You can slam a pillow. You can get the mat out and then choose to show up in a way that's going to make your day a lot more positive.
So I started a new business, and there are people that, right? Part of the documentary, and people are choosing to become a member of this. And one of the funnel owners decided that she didn't enjoy the process. And so she chose to cancel it. But in the interim of that choice, she then chose to create doubt and to stir the pot. And what I loved is that that was her choice, but it was also my choice, which was part of the contract, that she wasn't in integrity. And so I removed her from the platform because that's my choice, right? But I also have control. So in this part of your circles, so I have concern over how people are going to show up being a part of this company. Then I also have influence, that if you choose to be a part of this, this is where you can and cannot speak about it. And then I also have control. So I've learned, to your point, that when you build something yourself, you can influence others, but you also can control certain situations if you've put it and you've implemented it step by step by step.
Even there, though, it's realizing that you only have control of your reaction.
Right.
You don't have control of how they react. You don't have control of how they speak, how they show up.
No.
You might have influence over it by setting the tone.
But what I also realized is that I didn't allow, this is back to 2025, the year of shedding. Old Jane would have been charged and would have been really grumpy. And I was shopping with my children, and we were looking at presents for daddy, and it was so much fun. And then I started getting bombarded with messages. And in that moment, I learned about the brain because of the neuroscience camp. And in front of my children, I said, Mommy is upset. Mommy's going to take some deep breaths, because remember what happens when a hippo takes a deep breath and he blows it out, right? He covers the circumference of it all is covered in a deep breath. And the kids laughed with me. And all of a sudden, the 3 of us are taking deep breaths because they're like my sidekicks. And we're saying out loud, you're okay. You're safe. You're charged. But it actually is not because of the situation. It's because of the past. And so I very clearly, instead of going on a tangent with this person, I just removed them very quietly from the platform. And I said, all is great. In 2024, would have not done that. And that, for me, that's why I feel like 2025 is my biggest growth period, because it's not just maturing. It's just being aware of what you can control, what can you influence, and what is your concern. So your 3 circles really tie into what I've learned.
Oh, it's been invaluable because, like I said, I tend to be a control freak, and I would white knuckle life. I would
Yeah.
white knuckle things that I had no control over. And instead of trusting that they would work out, which can lead us to like the bigger discussion of where 2025 took us. But yeah, I want you to share with them, there's a phrase, and I don't want to say it because I'll give it, but about emotion.
Love this. Keala Kanai, he is the founder of Inspirian. He taught me this, and he said, when emotion is high, intellect is low. And you'll find out
Boom.
with Shannon and I, we don't claim phrases as coined by us. I'm a very big proponent of giving credit where credit is due. I feel that far too often people try to take ideas from others and claim it as themselves. Shannon and I don't subscribe to that. So I'll say it again. When emotions are high, intellect is low. And that rocked me. And I said it to Shannon when I came back from one of these neuroscience camps. And she and I both, it just blew our brains because we realized, right, shopping for my kids, emotions were high. My intellect was low. But I then also knew, take a deep breath, tell the part of my brain, like the hippocampus, take the deep breath, say it out loud, right? You and I talked about in episode 1 and a little bit in episode 2 that healing out loud together is so much more impactful and influential than healing alone and in quiet. And so I got to bring my kids along on that journey. Like, mommy's really upset, and I'm going to take a moment to calm myself down versus being triggered, being snappy at my kids, making rush decisions and taking it out on them. I brought them into this, like, mom's having a moment, and can you guys just give me some space? And they were there to support me. Again,
I think that that's
awesome.
so invaluable also because, there's always been helicopter parenting, but now they have what's called snowplow parenting, which is
Wait, I've never heard this before.
Oh, really?
No.
It's essentially that you snowplow everything out of your kid's way. So they're the people who don't want their kids to feel upset or left out, or nobody wants their kids to feel that. But what you inadvertently do is you make your kids afraid of those emotions and that they're not actually going to come out of those emotions. So instead of, if my son comes home and says, so-and-so was really mean to me on the playground today, instead of being like, oh, he's just a bull. You're fine. You're great. He didn't deserve to be around you. It's sitting in it and saying, wow, I bet that didn't feel very good, did it? Instead of pulling them out of the trench, you get into the trench and let them know that those feelings are okay. Those big emotions. I don't know about you, Jane, but and this goes back to the time of Dobson and how to raise a strong-willed child,
Totally.
and all that stuff. So I fully understand that our parents' generation did not have access to all of the tools and neuroscience behind raising kids that we did. I truly believe that for the most part, people do the best they can with what they have.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And we have also learned in therapy that two things can be true at once. It's the idea of and both. So
to piggyback on that, I've learned that those circumstances and those experiences, 90% of any situation, like you and I talking right now, 10% is actually the conversation, 90% is the surrounding influence around us. So my dog keeps jumping up and down and I'm a little sidetracked because I'm annoyed, or I'm thirsty. And so sometimes we can get really irritated with one another, or we're trying to do the best we can, but we don't take into consideration the environment around us, that actually has what has influenced this episode today.
Right.
And so
the fact that we're luteal.
Yeah, I'm very luteal today. Shannon and I got on the same cycle, if that shows anyone that you can live apart and be on the same cycle. But I'm learning that 90% of everything is actually not the situation or the conversation or the action taking place. It's everything around it that is almost like adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So I love it. I don't know about you, but I used to resent growing up and certain things that had happened to me. So I definitely played a victim role. And I have learned it's called a victim conscious cycle, where you live in this, well, if I only had more money, or if my parents only loved me more, or if they actually helped me be better in school, right? Everyone knows I'm very dyslexic, and it wasn't brought to our attention until I was in college. And it explained a lot of at the time, it would have seemed misfortunes of not doing well in school, especially in SAT, ACT. Multiple choice really throws me. Instead, that suffering molded me to get really clever and really almost like street smart on how can I then quote unquote beat the system, right? How can I get really creative to get myself through, right? So I still graduated with a really like a great GPA, and I went on to college and I did the same thing, but it wasn't because I was smart, right? Like I actually had to really work hard on finding tools that helped me. And so I used to be so resentful of my parents that they didn't catch it. And instead that happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
I became really, I think, ambitious and business driven because I wanted to prove to myself that this didn't hinder my success. This is what fueled me. And I think a lot of times we see those with professional athletes and musicians and famous people that have overcome diversity, adversity, etc. But I very much hope that people can realize that everything that has ever happened to you was happening for you. And so I no longer look at my past in a negative. I look at it as like, wow, what a gift, right? Like there was a purpose for that. So for me, the shedding of the victim mentality for 2025 has really rocked my world in such a positive way.
Yeah.
What about you?
I went to coffee with my mom the other day, and we were talking about a lot of things. And on the drive home, I told her that the single most impactful thing that I have learned in the last year and truly embodied, not just a phrase. Okay, I have to. There's two of them. Sorry,
That's fine. I love this.
I renege on that. One of two of the most impactful things, and one actually feeds into two, is the phrase that you more or less just said, which is the mantra that I always have, which is everything always works out in my favor.
Uh-huh.
And I want to be very clear that if you're listening to that right now and triggered by it, I see that. And it took a really long time for me to actually sit in, because I've had some pretty terrible things happen. Both of us have.
Mhm. In our past, we've both experienced some
both
trauma.
of us have lived through a lot.
Mhm.
Eventually, we'll probably talk about it on here.
Yeah.
But things that no one would really look at and say, oh, yeah, that was working in my favor.
Right.
And most of the time, I feel like in the moment, you're not supposed to be able to see it. But in the long term, it will end up working in your favor. And when I truly started to embody that, when I truly started to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, it changed everything. I mean, it changed everything. And I have a really, really great example of how something negative can work in your favor that I'd like to share. I'm going to keep identity. It's a family member. So this set of family members was supposed to go on this epic vacation. They had been planning it for, I think, like a year and a half. It was for a big milestone birthday. They were flying overseas. They were going to do an Adriatic cruise all over the Mediterranean.
Wow.
It was supposed to be like 3 weeks long. Epic trip, right? One for the books. They leave on their vacation. They land in Amsterdam. The woman is climbing, it's raining, and she climbs onto the bus and she slipped and skinned the entire front of her shin. Not mildly, like enough to end up in the hospital. So she ends up in the hospital in Amsterdam, and they basically tell her, you can't walk. And they said because of fear of infection, she can't go on the cruise. Now, the immediate thing would be to think, of course this happens to me.
Right.
Victim mindset of this is happening to me. And I get it. It would be extremely easy to see that. So
and
here's
it's okay to sit in it for a minute too and be grumpy.
It's
like,
okay
we're
to
not saying
admit that
don't.
it sucks. We're not talking toxic positivity. When something crappy happens, I will sit there and say, like, this is crappy. This is terrible. Right. But here's the part that I want to tell you about. So they fly home a couple of days after that happens. And the man starts having issues. 2 days after they get back to the United States, when they would have been at sea in the Adriatic, he underwent emergency life-saving surgery that he would have been in the middle of the Adriatic Sea when it happened. This is why I'm saying that even things that are bad can still be working in your favor, because I don't know that he would have lived if they would have been in the middle of the Adriatic. At the very least, they would have had to have airlifted him, but he would have been in a different country having a life-saving surgery that was a huge recovery.
I want you to feed off of this and tell everyone, because your analogy called the burnt toast
Oh, yeah.
analogy?
Yeah.
And
This
it's
is kind of where it
similar.
all spawned from.
But I want you to share that because you shared that with me in the beginning of 2025, took that with me everywhere I went, and I no longer played more that victim role. Instead, I was like, this is why. This is a burnt toast situation.
Yeah. So what she's talking about, I did not coin this. I don't actually know who did. Props to whoever did. If you do know, drop it in the comments because we'd love
Yeah.
to give them credit. It's called the burnt toast theory. So the burnt toast theory is this idea that in the time it takes you to burn a piece of toast, which I don't think anybody would be like, hey, starting my day off strong, burning a piece of toast.
No, but I do it often.
I do it more than I want to admit.
Yeah.
In that time that it would take you to make another piece of toast, or let's say you lose your keys, or you can't find your
Cell phone.
your cell phone, or
And it's
whatever.
in my hand.
It's done that. I've been talking to you and can't find my cell phone. That's the sad one. And you didn't catch it either.
No.
So in that time, it could have kept you from a fatal car accident or running into somebody that would have absolutely ruined your day or wouldn't have been safe for you. And it's the idea that everything is indeed working in your favor. It can be frustrating, but even if it is frustrating, down the line, you will be able to see.
Yeah.
I'll be very candid. So before I had my kids, I had 2 miscarriages. And the first miscarriage, of course, absolutely gutted us. And then you're terrified to go in. And the first marriage was really, really hard. We unfortunately had an ER doctor that was very flippant about it. It was a guy and was just kind of like, it's like another period. You're fine. But what that did was that explained to my husband that it wasn't really a big deal. Right. And he couldn't necessarily understand how emotional I was or anything like that. And he knows this. We've talked about it many times, but it drove a bit of a wedge between us because I did not feel like it was a small thing. I did not feel like it was just another period. And then we went on and had a second miscarriage. And I remember seeing the look on the doctor's face when there wasn't a heartbeat.
Not the same doctor, different
Nope,
doctor.
different doctor. This was like my OB. And in the time, I remember thinking, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And I did not subscribe to this idea yet. This was many years ago. And I was absolutely devastated that we had lost another baby. But this doctor explained to my husband how massive this was and exactly what was going to happen in my body and exactly what was going to happen with the emotions. And I remember walking out and him apologizing because he had no idea what was happening. And he showed up for every single step of that second one. And now I know I had to have that second miscarriage to heal from the first one. And at the time, I could not have told you that. And now I actually have eyes to see it. And so this is another case of I understand that hearing that might be triggering and you saying I was sexually assaulted or I lost babies or whatever it is. And there are unimaginable things that Jane and I are never in a million years saying are not horrific and will gut you and make you speechless like you can't breathe. What we are saying is that down the line, and it may take years to get away from it, to actually see it, but it does change everything to know. And it puts it into a different filter that now we do it with my kids. And I think you do as well, where when something bad happens, like we miss a train to go somewhere or something with my kids, we'll play, how is this going to work in my favor? And they actually do it now, right? They'll sit there and be like, this stinks. And we're like, yeah, it does. It really stinks. And we're like, how in the world could this work in our favor? And my kids will be like, maybe we were going to get in a car accident. And you're like, maybe. Who knows?
But what you're doing is, and what I've learned, Kayla has also said this, Kayla Kanai, he said, everyone gets the call. Meaning you learned what happened by having the second miscarriage, why you had to have the second in order to heal from the first, for you and your husband to remove the wedge, to understand the process. So everyone gets the call. It's a matter of, are you willing to answer the call and be the first one to act, to go first? So by you learning all of this, by you wanting to heal and choosing to, and then choosing to explain this to your children. So now you've turned it into they're aware and they're conscious of these circumstances. You are teaching them by being the leader because you answered the call to share it with them, which also means you've stopped the generational victim conscious cycle. You're no longer saying I'm a victim of this. You're saying there is a reason why this is happening, and it might be a year, 10, 30, right?
Yeah.
For you and I, 25 years ago, something happened terrible to me. I didn't know why until 2025, 25 years later. And now I can look and be like, whoa, right? Like it shakes you to your core. And so I'm celebrating you for teaching your children this and for being the example to go first. So that way they then can turn around and teach others. And if they choose to have children, they then can teach their children the same. And this is how you change generational trauma.
Yep. Thank you. I received that.
Can we talk about ketamine for a second?
Oh, God, yes.
Because it's I have learned it's very taboo still because I think people don't know enough about it. So therefore, they're quick to judge it. And I've experienced a lot of judgment from my family when I chose to do ketamine because you chose to do ketamine first. And what people will learn
Let's be very clear. So this is ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So it is like we're not picking up a Special K prescription from some random person. This is through proper channels. It is watched. It is monitored. We take blood pressure. Like it is very controlled. We're not just popping Special K.
This is why everyone needs to have a best friend because they balance out.
I did not want to see those comments.
But so Shannon had learned about it from her therapist and she chose to go down. Our therapist to go down to Southern California. And it was a remarkable experience for Shannon. And so then my husband and I, we both also wanted to do this. And this is before also we learned about Inspirion. And so it's been a really beautiful journey because I did a few sessions where I had visions because it's only about 90 minutes, give or take, total, that you are under the influence of this ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. And the premonitions that I had, I didn't know were premonitions. I just thought they were visions. 2 of them specifically three have come true. And one of them was that I was on a red carpet, but my daughter stole the show and I got really nervous and I was really sick and I ended up vomiting. That was my premonition. And it came true to a T. Like literally it came true. The second premonition was Shannon and I were on a stage sharing together. I wasn't introducing her and she wasn't introducing me. We were sharing an experience side by side as equals. And I didn't know at the time about permission to be. I didn't know that this was something that Shannon was conceptualizing and trying to figure out how would it work. And then here we are together on a podcast talking about it. And I so clearly see, and I'd like to mark it, that on episode 3, I am claiming that that is going to happen because there's no way 2 premonitions can be true and the third cannot. So I'm very excited that through therapy and through healing, I've been able to also see what is in our future.
I love that. And I totally see it as well. So ketamine for me has been, if you don't know the basis of any kind of psychoactive therapy, so whether that's psilocybin or if you do a medicine journey with ayahuasca or whatever, you have something that most people know is there, but we tend to not think that it serves a purpose, but it's your ego. So your ego is not just this puffed up version of you. Your ego is meant to keep you safe. Your ego does serve a purpose. Now, some people's ego is a lot bigger than somebody else's. But for therapy speak, your ego serves a purpose of maintaining these walls of what you have to keep you safe. And I think for most people, they misunderstand that your brain is not wired for success. Your brain is always wired for safety.
Survival.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And unfortunately, your brain associates what you know, whether it's good or bad, as what is safe. One of my favorite phrases in all time is the body will keep you in a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. So even if the circumstance that you're in is terrible, your brain knows it. It's the devil it knows.
Yeah.
And so it will deem everything else unsafe, even if it is a heaven, right? And so ketamine, from what I understand, so if this is not true, be gentle with me.
Yeah.
From what I understand is ketamine or psilocybin or things like that, they quiet the ego and they let you actually like ketamine in particular helps you build new neural pathways. So instead of walking in this rut, this ditch that you've had that's like, I suck, I'm a worthless piece of crap. Like instead of walking that ditch over and over, and it's got really, really steep sides, and it's really hard to get out of because that's how your brain's thought for 40 years. It allows you to get out of that trench and walk a different path to get past all those blocks that trench was not letting you go to.
So cool.
So when I've done ketamine, for the most part, it's always been a very positive experience. And I don't know if you've experienced this, Jane, but for me in ketamine, any time that I would hit on a truth, it was like this lightning bolt went down my body. And it was almost like you felt that it was true. If you've ever had that experience of having an aha moment, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's it. That is what I've experienced a lot in ketamine. Our therapist is incredible at guiding through that. And I'm going to give her full props for this last session that was absolutely transformative for me. And so, like I said, I'm a control freak, and I'm going to share this very, very vulnerably. So please don't be an a-hole. So we start the session, and I told her that my intention was to try to let go of control. Because like I said, I tend to white knuckle life. Even knowing like concern, influence, control, it's still really hard for me to just trust, right? It's like if I've got it, I know it's going to get handled. It's like a group project, right? I knew that if I did the group project, we were going to get an A. If I handed that over to somebody else, we might not. So I wanted to let go of control. Then the medicine hits, and it's intense. And all of a sudden, she's asking me these questions, and my brain won't answer them, and I feel like I can't answer them. And this familiar spiral starts going off of, holy cow, you can't even figure this out on ketamine. Like, why can't you even let go of control on ketamine? And I remember
is that
saying,
familiar hell, everyone, that she's
exactly.
experiencing.
This is the familiar hell of your body keeping you, because your body will always confirm. It will always look for evidence of the belief that you have.
Right.
So if I believe that I'm not fixable, my brain is going to look for evidence of how I can't be fixed. So I just say to Chrissy, I'm unfixable. And she was like, what? And I said, I can't be fixed. And she paused for a second, and my brain is just spiraling. And she goes, what if you're not a problem to be fixed? What if there's nothing to fix?
That still
And
gives me
I
goosebumps.
swear it went down me like a lightning bolt. And all of a sudden, it was like when Dorothy goes from Kansas in the black and white to Oz in the color. Everything opened up, and it was like, oh my God. So you mean how much emotion I carry through life? That's not meant to be fixed.
No.
That's how I was chosen.
Right.
Me walking into a room and my energy is big, that's not something to fix. And my husband had asked me, because I don't think he realized how profound it was. He was like, well, how many things about you did you feel like you needed to fix? And I can genuinely say all of them. I felt like every part of my body had to be smaller. My voice had to be smaller. I was too much. Most things about me had something that needed to be fixed. And so sitting in this idea of I'm not a problem to be fixed also opened up the wormhole to that, and this was probably the biggest shedding for both of us in 2025. I'm going to speak for you as well. Realizing how many masks we had put on over the course of our life, trying to build connections. Right? Like, I want you to like me. Okay, I'll be this person because this person's the one that you're going to like. Or for my family, I'm the be perfect, but make it look effortless person, right? Like, Shannon's got it. Nobody has to worry. But those aren't actually me.
Mm-mm.
Those are just masks that I put on. And in that moment, in that ketamine session, I realized that the reason that I'd never felt like enough and the reason that I'd never felt like I was connected was because I had disconnected from myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know. I'd worn masks for so long that it's almost like you look in the mirror and you're like, who's that? I don't know who that is.
I genuinely do hope that this lands for people, because I know that in episode 2, we ended with the desire that I have to build a bigger table where everyone has a seat and feels seen for who they are, because they don't have to fit in with you and I, they belong. Could you imagine if everyone that chooses to take a seat with us also can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I am not a problem to be fixed? And what ripple effect could that have on a global impact if people started to embrace who they are without the masks? Because you and I don't wear masks anymore.
It would change the world.
Yeah, you talk about a lightning bolt. I had a full-on emotional moment just now where very choked up at the idea that this really has the potential to allow people to feel seen. Because we're not here to ask you to put on a mask. We're actually here to have you remove them.
And I would ask you, and it's probably going to be a little bit awkward because I don't think that most of us have sat in the idea of you're not a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I've coached enough women, and the answer is always the same. If you ask, what do you like? They're like, I don't know. I know what I'm supposed to like.
I
I
know what
know
I
what I'm
don't
supposed to
like.
do. I know what I don't like, but I don't know what lights me up. Like truly just down in my soul, what lights me up. So if you're driving in your car or you're listening in your house, wherever you are, take a minute and feel in your body. What would that feel like to know that you are not a problem to be fixed? That the emotions that you have, the intellect that you have, the humor that you have, the flaws, the imperfections, the trials and tribulations that you've had, you chose this life for a specific reason, and yet we morph and we bend. It's almost like, as women, as we age, it's like we pluck, we wax, we shrink, we suck in, and that's what we do with our personalities as well.
Yeah.
We trim a little bit of this off. We shave a little bit of that off to try to be liked. And in doing so, we disconnect from the only connection that truly matters for our entire life, which is ourselves.
We've learned, Shannon and I, this year that the art of saying no, because we truly don't align or we don't feel it, or it's just like there's that energy source that we're feeling more resistance than acceptance, it's okay. And instead of making yourself feel shameful, instead embrace it. We've learned a lot of times that when you are not motivated to do X, there's a reason why. And instead of feeling that you are not enough, and so therefore you have to go do it, instead lean into the opposite. And I would like to say also that I've learned that we always think that we have to do the thing, to be the thing, to have the thing.
Say
And
that one more time.
everyone believes that you have to do the thing, to be the thing, to have the thing. Here's a great example. When we see people, we say, "How are you doing?" Because we have literally trained our minds to think we have to be doing something in order to be something.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, this year, the question has been switched. And now I'm a part of a beautiful community that says, "How are you being?" And then instead of me trying to fix you if you are being sad or being trepidatious, it's, can I hold space for you? How can I support you? And so we don't have to end it here, but I would like to end at least this conversation with, we are all remarkable human beings. We were not born into this world by mistake or by happen chance. It was intentional. If you believe in God, if you believe in the universe, if you believe in the spirit, we call him Gus, Shannon and I.
God, universe, spirit.
I love it. I learned about it this year, and I think it's beautiful because it can encompass all. And so it was asked to me, and I will ask it today. We are all remarkable human beings. But somewhere along our lives, we forgot why. And permission to be, in my mind, and I'm not trying to get choked up, but I really would like to know, what could Shannon and I do to bring it back to people? Because I don't have any interest in faking it. And I would very much desire to bring more connection to people and to bring more love into this world and to say, I see them for them. And Shannon and I will hold space, which is why it's to build a bigger table, because we would like people to finally remember why they are so remarkable, because Shannon and I see it so clearly. It's supposed to be a funny episode.
No, doesn't have to be. This is where I wish that we were just across from each other and I could actually give you a hug.
I would receive it.
2025. So one of the things as we end, and I was telling Jane, if you do believe in the Chinese zodiac, so it doesn't actually, I don't know the actual date in February, but it doesn't transition to the year of the horse until February. And whether or not you believe in that, it doesn't matter. I think collectively we can all agree that 2025 was a year of shedding. It was a year of getting rid of the things. And my encouragement to you as you listen to this podcast is put down those rocks.
Yeah.
Don't pick them back up and carry them into another year. Don't choose that, right? If you shed all of this stuff and you're trying to put them down, but you can't walk away from the rocks because you feel like you can't really leave them, I'm begging you, leave them. Walk away from them. Leave the rocks that are not yours. You have enough to carry that is actually in your control. But remember how minute that little bitty circle of control is. Don't carry rocks that you don't have control of how they actually come out. You have no control over your family. You have no control over your parents. You have no control. Really, you don't even have control over your kids. You have influence.
Yeah.
So then spend your time focusing as we transition from one year to another on what you actually can shed and leave behind for good so that you have the capacity and the energy to actually move the needle in 2026 to things that will build you into the person that you are becoming. Everything that happened in 2025, trust me, when I say both of us ate dirt more times than we can count in 2025. I mean, there's a reason Chumbawamba Tub Thumping has been our theme song for this year. But one of the things that I know, like for instance, the masks, I refuse to wear the masks anymore.
Same.
If someone does not like me, guess what? That's okay.
That's
They're
their
not
choice.
meant for me, right? That is their choice. The only control that I have is being authentically me. I have no control over whether somebody else likes me. I have no control over how my family acts to me. I love to do ceremonious things, like imagining placing the things that you don't want to carry with you in your hand and then imagine dumping them, just dropping them. That's somatic work. Anytime that your body likes to physically release things, it doesn't do so well just mentally. Writing them down on a piece of paper and safely burning them, throwing them into a fireplace, doing things like that, just to let it go. Like what if 2026 was the year that you stopped trying to fix yourself and started trying to come home to yourself? What would that do? If this really spoke to you, please share this with somebody. Jane's holding it together.
I'm real emotional because I really desire this for more people. The unfamiliar heaven, I am more interested in that than the familiar hell. And 2025, I shedded that.
And realize that you have a choice. That cage is not locked. It's never been locked. It's just scary to step out of it.
Please follow and subscribe. We want to hold space for you.
Happy end of 2025. And the next time we talk to you, it'll be 2026.
Happy New
New Year's, guys. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us in the messy middle. If this episode made you feel seen, laugh a little, or think, wow, it's not just me, then you are exactly who this space is for.
And if you want to keep these conversations going, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you know another woman who's navigating hormones, motherhood, or just the general chaos of being human, send this her way.
And remember, we listen, we don't judge, and you don't have to have it all figured out to belong here. We'll see you next time.